go into public comment. Got a feeling you're gonna have some over here for the firelight.
Well, thank you for having us today. You don't have anything
Can
specific.
you do us a favor,
Yeah.
please, and introduce yourself. Sal and I learned the hard way over at BizRed. Introduce ourselves and speak into a little mic, please.
Sure. Becky Brocky, Firelight Meadows County Water and Sewer District Vice Chair, and we just want to thank you for your time and consideration today. We've been aboard since May, so we are very new and very green, but are hopeful to solving our issue.
We had a meeting last
Thursday?
Thursday. Sometimes just for an introduction, got a few of those people here. Johnny said you almost have a quorum for your meeting here.
Yeah, we posted on our website.
You're better than we are. So it was a great meeting, learned a lot, just kind of a summary. Any comments you had on it? It's an eye opener. It's going to be a little bit complicated, but I think we're on the right path.
Yeah, we got it under whole business, so we can talk more about it then.
Anything else you had? Because we're going to jump into our meeting.
No.
Just here to listen. All right, well, thanks for attending.
Who's on the board?
He's the chair.
I heard.
Jeff Gill, he's our treasurer.
Good.
And we have two other members who aren't present.
Okay, great. Thank you, Becky.
Susan's.
All right, we'll call the regular meeting to order. Conflict of interest declarations. Work our way around the table. None.
No.
None. Good, got that out of the way. Then we'll go into the consent agenda.
I've heard you before.
Do you guys have any questions about the financials?
Well, I always ask, I always, it's a creature I have, number one, but number two, what is your schedule? Here we are. We're gonna put you on the spot here.
I'll be going part-time starting January 1st.
So you will be here, you'll be going part-time.
Yeah.
Are there gonna be any festivities? I mean,
Yes,
Not that I'm aware
any
of.
raucous festivities? Okay,
we will be
okay.
celebrating
I'm just gonna get this.
everything.
So again, we are in the consent agenda. We always start with Terry. And we've opened it up more of an operating, but let's talk then a little bit about the financial report.
Obviously, we're just buttoning up all of the summer projects, so our expenses are a little high. You guys saw in there the legal fees, obviously, are always affecting us. So like 278 in October, towards 283 towards legal fees, and 467 towards legal fees here in November. And then we shouldn't have too many more invoices coming, but that's affecting us. Pontoon cleanout was also reflected in those expenses, and we hadn't budgeted for it. But just so you all know, we're working on a new chart of accounts and we're getting ready to budget now. The guys are already starting to work on it, so we're gonna try and make it as clear for you all as we can. I'll get input from anyone who's interested, but mostly from our guys. So we're working really hard to clean that up. And it'll tie into my discussion later about financials and the billing software.
Great.
And what were the legal fees again?
Let's see here, 283 in October, 283,000 and 476,000.
I just over.
Is that the year to date or is that just?
No, those are just those months.
So wait, it's a good question. That's a chunk. Did the November payables include all November expenses? That was the trial, of course, and that would have been.
I bet we're still gonna have invoices come in, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not tied up. There's no way that was the final bill.
I didn't think it was the final. If you said it was through November 15th, then I really hit the pin.
Yeah.
So we're pushing.
Yeah, sorry.
$4 million.
We're pushing the forward. Yes, sir. And one of the quotes was for, based on talking to you, and it's just creeping right up there. But I think the best formula that we've shared with the community is you roughly have right now 3.4. Will this put us over 3. Is this in addition to 3.4? This includes 3.4. So we'll go back to roughly 3.4 million for 3,500 ratepayers. Pretty easy to figure out that we're going to be over $1,000 per ratepayer.
So we're saying you got to move the bill.
We'd like to. That sure would be fair, but we're in the trenches still, that's what it is. Okay,
I like the new column there, percentage of operating.
Yeah, I'm trying to just clarify the picture a little bit for everybody.
More than 10% of our operating.
And
budget
you're right, Peter, it is 476,000 year to date for just the month,
or 76 year to date,
year to date.
fiscal year to date.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not quite as painful.
No, but
I think
We're not done.
it's very painful.
it's kind of look at any bright spot in this, hey, we won, okay, we'll look at that, but it wasn't pretty.
Fiscal year started in July, that didn't.
Yeah.
That's still, it's a remarkable number.
It is. It's better than just the month of November. No, it's tough. This is excruciating, so. Okay, anything else in financial questions for Amy? Gary, I gotta get used to not
I
talking.
can get the two topics I was gonna ask about, legal and which is why we're roughly $1 million over budget and expenses.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Go into the operating reports. Those are exciting.
So Peter is out racing or doing something with racing, so they had a pretty busy week, but we're starting to see construction come down. I think they had 53 locates for the last month. October was a little bit higher. Still a little bit of Jake's under because Peter's crew did tear out the Hidden Village 2 well house. So we are no longer heating a building that hasn't been used in years. So that one and test well 9 up on the picture have officially been closed out.
So we don't have to access test well 9 anymore.
Nope.
So Chris won't be getting any calls.
Not on us.
Never say never. Okay.
Yeah, so and then we got Blake and Clark over there. Clark has had his first month's experience with the operating report. So whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, so it's been we're still really busy, but working on budgeting, like Amy said, it's been a priority. And then the other one is the kind of transferring our assets and stuff from ArcGIS to that OpenGov platform, which is cumbersome and hard. We don't have anybody specifically trained for it, so it's a learning process. And yeah, it seems like it's like 2 or 3 steps forward and 15 steps back some days. But we're going through that, and that's been a big lift in addition to just the standard operations that we do. So
Well, it's been 2 months. Sorry for that disruption last month, no meeting. It doesn't happen very often. Any anomalies in the last 60 days, not just 30 days?
we can tell there's not as many people up here.
Oh, yeah.
Weather related. I'm personally not too sad about it. Still getting the moisture for the ground, so I'm not like thinking, so that's good, like water district wise. And then the weather is nicer just for lack of shoveling, and the heating bills are gonna be lower, stuff like that. And it gave us some extra time just to kind of keep up with this extra loads that we've got. Yeah, I know that there's some people in the room that are probably a little less happy about the weather. And it's just 55 degrees in the canyon. That sounds true today.
Wow.
But yeah, it's crazy. And then we've been working. Julie's on. I see and Mike. We've been doing a lot of work with the DNRC about the water rights stuff. And then A2S, we got a draft of the water master plan. So I've got some notes on that here, but yeah, we've been getting a lot of work done. So
Thanks.
Yeah.
Clark.
Clark Cleary, nice to meet all of you. So, like it's been mentioned, new to town, new to the week sky work, operations for last month. Actually, last 90 days, I think Adam left in September. So pretty stable operation. There were a lot of projects they were closing out, pond cleaning. Some of our effluent data reflects what happens as you're cleaning out some of those ponds with some turbidity spikes. Outside of that, I think the team did a fantastic job, currently meeting all A1 discharge limits. So we are taking a look at training, we're taking a look at operations, we're doing a financial deep dive, looking to build some master service agreements for some of our contractors. Currently working to bring in a software database for a historical archive of all of our process data to be able to be used for multiple houses within the district operations. Continuing our OpenGov asset management development. Pretty big lift. The WRF has quite a few assets, so working with Johnny on developing an AMP and a SAMP, which is a strategic asset management plan, our asset management standards as well. So far loved it. I think the plant is operating very well. I do expect that we're gonna see some expenses in different areas as we train, as we look to build critical spare parts inventory. Kind of regionally redoing how we're doing sampling, what's our sampling procedures, taking direction from Johnny on where we want to go with that. But I'll have a little more information as time goes on, but right now I think things are running really well. Effluent quality is really high, facility's running great. No significant failures at the facility or any large expenses coming through for equipment right now. And our current battle right now is we're trying to understand and plot a path forward for the future of biosolids management for Big Sky.
Okay. And we got September's graph up for the golf course. So beginning of September, we're a little over $1 million. And you can kind of see they drop down. I think that's 60,000. And October, really, that was more to the pastures than the golf course. On total flow, and then what we've done for pumping the YC and Spanish Peaks. I think the orange is August. Yeah, I think this is still August graph, because I don't think we pumped anything after August up to YC, if I remember correctly.
What's the total on the golf course and pastures?
Just over 65.
Do you know offhand what the pastures, we always compare the two.
So before this next season, we are going to get a flow meter on the pasture so we can actually say what was golf course and what was pastures. Right now, it's just all one number.
We just to extrapolate it somehow out of the north and south.
There's a meter over there.
So maybe that'd be a good one to get, to understand what's going on in that course versus what's going on in the pastures. That gives you a spare tire going back and forth, right?
Right, as a pastor, where they were thinking of that three.
Yeah.
Course.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's on older.
I take bets on that one happening. Vegas has odds. I don't know about that one happening. It looked really good on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that picture up above, those guys standing around is Jim Potts and Richard Drilling. And that's that test 9 artesian well. You can see they've got the flow coming out of that manifold as they were pumping the slurry in from the bottom up to plug that in.
Yeah, so Jim Potts, because these are both artesian wells, actually brought in an oil company that specializes in closing out oil wells, which are typically to be under pressure and stuff too. So they pumped them both full of mud.
They were not from Cut Bank.
So did a really awesome job. And then this is Hidden Village. This will not revert back to a property owner because that is a plotted easement, utility easement that runs up through there. So it'll just be green space here in the future. But
That looks good, by the way.
yeah. Guys did a really good job. Most of that was done in-house. So I believe Bridger came back up to cut the height down below grade.
Yeah, so he's that's
Yeah. And then I think this is your work up on the gondola.
we were just to take a picture while we've been doing a lot of work up there with meter installations. And then just this last Friday, which will be in the next report, obviously, but we helped them with the load test. Got the metered water so they knew exactly how many gallons of water they were putting per cabin. And worked with Laurel Leslie up there. She actually called up afterwards and thanked us for. I wasn't up there, but yeah, Todd and Jeff did a great job. So
Foundation removal for inside.
that was a great combination of bricks and concrete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, a lot of things got checked off the list in the last 60 days.
Yeah.
Been busy.
That was a good off season.
No, we did good. Like Amy said, we've closed out a lot of projects, got a lot of stuff done this last year. Moving on, we'll talk more about it later on the agenda and the board inquires and consents. We'll go over the platforms and stuff that we're looking into utilizing and stuff. So that's about all we have for consent or the operating report. Any questions?
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
Clark, you mentioned that when we were cleaning up the pond, that's gonna have an impact on what's heading into the plant. So I presume when we look at our influent numbers, the spike in nitrogen is probably caused by that. Is that?
Yeah, you had anaerobic sludge in the bottom of the pond from here, so it created a heavier loading into the plant of nitrogen and ammonia. And so that when we were cleaning that out, that was even what Adam was alluding to, some of those spikes that come through.
So would that also be the cause of the spike in the nitrogen for the effluent?
So that is going to be temperature changes in water temperature. So the colder the water to get, more oxygen it holds, less likely it's going to denitrify. So they have to adjust the air. And right now we're producing too much air. So we have to take extra measures to try to dump air off to get it down low enough. So that is why we had the effluent spike. It got cold and too much air.
Gotcha. So that, is that, in my memory, is that the first time we've actually spiked above the A1 limit for that brief period? Since the new plant.
Since the new.
Thank you.
And just to clarify too, what we've discussed with DEQ is that the Class A-1 compliance point would be at the headers of the irrigation pump station and the YC1 pump station. So downstream of the reservoirs, that way you always have that buffer. The reservoirs, respond to half a year worth of treatment performance versus flashes at the plant from cleaning out pond 2 or temperature changes or whatever it might be. And so I think that's to your advantage to push that with DEQ, that's our compliance point for Class A-1. And it makes the most sense because that's the water that's actually pushing out to irrigators.
And also, we want to know what's going into the pond. And so we have those sample points, and then we have what comes into the ponds, and then our 2 diversion points that come out, our most compliance sample points. So
Okay. Anything else? Great. Minutes. We have a chance to take a look at the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Questions? Then I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda. Includes the minutes and operating report for financial.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Any other discussion on the other topics? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Johnny, you want to get on to the audit report?
we're going to let the expert speak with Morgan. So Morgan represents our new auditing company. If you guys remember this last year, we had to abruptly change it. So Morgan, I think did an excellent job. Actually pointed us out to a couple other things that we did not know that we looked into. So appreciate that. So let Morgan take it away.
Okay. Yep, Morgan Scarso with Amatic CPA Group, our first year on the audit, so I'm excited to be here and we appreciate the opportunity to do it. This is an audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards, so we issue a couple audit reports in conjunction with that. This first one here is it's just our basic independent auditor's report, and the opinion is first, and it is clean, which is in our language unmodified, which just means that based on the audit procedures we performed, the testing we did over your audit evidence, we think that the financial statements as presented here are materially correct, which is really like the crux of what you're going for there. It continues on for 2 more pages. It talks about some of the other pieces in this audit. It talks about the fact that even though we draft the financial statements and footnotes, those are management's responsibility. That you'll see that wording throughout all of the deliverables, and it talks about our responsibility as far as the audit and then the reporting. That then references that one of their references our last report, which sort of bookends the other piece of it. So way back on page 49 is our second report. It's our report on internal control and compliance. This is required because you report under government auditing standards. So the point is not to give you a system or give you an opinion on your system of internal controls. However, you can't really audit the financials without looking at the system of controls. Every one of your transactions flows through your system of controls. So you can't kind of set those aside and ignore them. So if we were to find anything that we considered to be a deficiency in internal control, we would report them in that report. It's all definitions there because we did not find anything that we considered to be a material weakness or a significant deficiency. And so that's what that report goes on to say. We also test some compliance with applicable like laws and regulations. And if we found any non-compliance, we would report that there as well, which we did not. The governance letter is a separate document then that we issue. It talks again about audit administration being our responsibilities versus management's responsibilities, and then any recommendations that we find that don't really rise to the level of an internal control deficiency, but just would warrant your attention. We report those there. So we have a couple items that we noted there. But you asked about legal, is this everything through that? It's one of those related to that. So making sure that bill dates in your system reflect dates of service, not the date that they sent you the invoice, just to make sure that when you're looking at a full accrual snap, you actually get expenses as they're incurred, not as people bill you for them. Just invoice dating can be variable, which is hard to do on a real-time basis. Obviously, you'll still do invoices, but when you look at year-end, especially making sure. And then just some system stuff over, you require dual signatures. That's really good control, and then you want to have the back end check on the review of those bank statements and bank reconciliations. Otherwise, your ingoing control, if it's not reviewed on the back end, you don't really have a detective control then. Yeah. So a couple items there. I think that's all. So thank you to Amy and to Terry for all the lists throughout the whole process, and just, as much as we're learning a new thing, they're training a new auditor as well. So it's not an insignificant new lift in the first year. We're just a lot of questions. So I appreciate the opportunity.
It was a really good experience for me. My first time. So it was good that we're new together. That's all
There's something that's not yet.
That's Terry, a million.
In my list. Burned out with a clean audit in 2001 when I started, and a clean audit in 2025.
You might get dragged back in.
I know, well, obviously. But I won't be responsible for this.
Part-time gig works pretty well then, huh?
Yeah.
No responsibility by day. Okay, Al, did you have any comments?
I have one question, and it's somewhat related, but we have to report to the local government services bureau, right?
Yep.
Do we have to do anything additional as part of the audit, or just provide them with a copy of that?
We have to pay them $2,500.
Sign that check.
That's not for the audit.
Yeah,
It's not for the audit.
Pleasure.
That's the boaed, and submit another copy of the audit to them through our portal.
But there's no additional testing or,
No.
because you guys are an approved auditor for them.
Approved on the roster, and because they really want an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. So if you're doing something different or you're doing a compliance type audit, you have to get their blessing first, but you're doing everything that they want. Just submit it.
It's good to know. I'm asking because of a different reason, but.
Getting some free advice over there, Al. You buy your personal taxes, you like that?
It's not free.
Interesting about, it's under action item, so we'll take an action as a board, correct?
Yeah, I do accept.
Accept.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Les Lowell.
Yes.
He drew the line and said, we cannot vote on this. And I said, okay, well, why can't we vote on this? Because we can. And I said, okay, I mean, all of us were kind of like, okay, next year it came around and we voted on it. So for some
Willing
reason,
to accept it.
accept it,
Not
not to approve it.
It may have caused that problem.
Did you?
We were on resort tax together. I would not vote to approve the audit.
Oh, so this was Al. Okay,
Probably me.
never mind that.
Yes.
I just remember he drew the line.
Yeah.
So, and we had to look into it. Thank you, Al. For owning it. All right. Any other discussion? I mean, it's almost too smooth. It's nice. Congratulations on your first year. Thank you.
To clarify, not my first year on.
Wait, that's on the key. Yeah. That's like, just make a note in that recording because on the key. Yeah, okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion to accept the audit.
So moved.
Second. Okay, by Mike. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
not sure there wasn't anything else we need to do there.
Nope.
Okay. Committee reports? Yeah, this is an interesting one. And Mike, I should have called you last week. Dick and I were going back and forth on questions regarding the district bonder and the service bonder and a snowmaking process. And we learned a lot just talking about it. We finally said, we better come down and put it on the big screen. And we put it on the big screen. Not to leave you out, I said, Johnny, we got to point at these things. We literally did it right here. Couldn't do it from our seats. A little bit of confusion over there. I think we worked it out. We found a couple things that we need to work through. But you had your comments in on the agreement itself. Dick, you were comfortable with your comments. I have your red line version. We talked through pretty much everything. Only because I think we're pushing a year on this. I think it's time that it's just, this is the agreement. And we did get an agreement over there, came back. And this is gonna be kind of our line that we're saying these are needs, not requests, and moving forward. If it's all right with everyone here, I'd like to set a deadline that we push this through. I don't know if Susan's on the line.
I admitted her, so
Okay.
I believe she's on. Yep.
Susan, given the time frame and the fact we kind of get a backlog here, and we've got, I think we're gonna have a really intense first half of the year coming up. It's a lot of new things. The Firelight project's gonna take a lot of time. We have other things that we're loading up. Can we set a deadline that once you kick this over to the team, if they get it back in a certain period of time, that we can hopefully put this to bed? Just to try to keep it on a schedule. Without a schedule, we're gonna drift.
Well, where are we right now? Does Susan have?
So we met last week. I incorporated the edits, corrected we went back to the original. I got Mike's yesterday, day before yesterday.
Yeah.
So I hadn't had a chance to go through prepare his, it's back over to Susan, actually, Susan tomorrow afternoon. So it, other than grammar and stuff, it's like right there, so.
Most importantly, you two comfortable with everything before we.
Felt pretty good about what was in there, just
Okay.
the treatment cost is all that the question I brought up.
Yep. So maybe the goal would be this, Susan, I don't know if you have her on mute, but the idea would be to get this over to the back to Flatiron. And then the best defense is a good offense. Then you are on the agenda for next month to discuss the agreement that we've kicked back to you, hopefully within 2 weeks of the meeting. So in other words, that would give.
My goal is to have it look over to you guys by the end of this week. And then,
So
so
that's the agreement. And I know it's been a while, but the fact is now, if you can get that back to us and give it a thumbs up or questions or comments, let's get that done at the next meeting and get it off our agenda. It's great to close these out as the year end comes up.
You want to do it at this meeting, if you want to have a subcommittee?
I think we're ready to just call it an agreement. It's gone back and forth twice. And I think when you get it, we just want to hear from you at the next meeting. You'll be an action item agenda. Great. That make sense?
Yes.
All right, that's our report.
Cool. Yeah, into old business, we got Scott.
That's it.
Mace was supposed to meet. There it is. Oh, there it is. That makes sense. Scott.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up my letter and cruise through it. If you want to try to match me, Johnny, then I can still see the room and the document versus me trying to read off that document
All right, I got you.
that you're navigating. Water resource recovery facility. The warranty period is done December 31st. We still have approximately $125,000 of our budget, AE2S's budget, remaining there. So we are using that to Zach, and primarily Zach, helping Clark just get the lay of the land over there. It's a really complicated plant. I think you all know that, and Clark's done a great job getting up to speed. And Zach's just been helping with understanding the process and flow splits and kind of the deep SCADA stuff. So hopefully that's all going well. Sounds like it is, Clark. We came up and met with Clark and Johnny to talk about those biosolids challenges. We have about $46,000 remaining in a centrifuge design modifications budget that, just to jar everybody's memory, we had a project in the original water resource recovery facility construction project as a bid alternate to put in centrifuge and new polymer and upgrade biosolids down there. We canceled that bid alternate on shortly after bid day just to try to keep the total project within budget. Never pulled it all back. Ron did end up purchasing a centrifuge later with BizRad funds, and so we have a piece of equipment there that we've been trying to work with Johnny and originally Adam and other staff on how to get that centrifuge installed and put some new equipment around it and enable staff to use it to augment the belt filter press that's down there that's over 20 years old at this point. That kind of stalled out with staff changes. Clark's now on board. We spent a fair amount of time, I believe this was 2 weeks ago, trying to figure out how to best rehab that project, get the centrifuge in the meantime, and then there is a bigger biosolids kind of programmatic question out there of what do you all want to do for the next 20 years. Getting the centrifuge in is more of a 2 to 5 year kind of benefit. And so we've got this, what I call an interim project that, basically takes care of the project that was supposed to be in the construction project, but had to be pulled out because of budget. And then a long-term decision about what do you all want to do with biosolids, because essentially you're producing more now than you can reliably, and love to hear Johnny and Clark chime in here, but reliably get rid of via composting. So you're just dewatering some of it and taking it to Logan landfill.
So what we had the whole ECS, or our composting system, also evaluated, and composting takes quite a bit of time. And so with the new system, we're retaining more solids, therefore we have to process more solids. Current system can only do so much at 40 gallons per minute, so it has to be expanded. So getting in the centrifuge, so we're kind of in that gray area of what's the biggest bang for our buck, because first and foremost, we've got to produce biosolids. Well, then you get into 503 rigs and you got class A, B, C, really getting away from C, more into B, more into A, and composting puts you in class A, which means you can use it anywhere. We can do pre-composting, and Logan does composting for overlay, so we still got to talk to them. But it's to grow the ECS, we've got to have time and space. Which we have neither of right now because we got 5 bins and then you got curing time. So it's what, 30, 45 days overall before compost is actually ready. So we got an inside portion of the building, but if you're doing what we're doing every day, it's not big enough. So we're trying to find a happy medium to where maybe we could still produce some compost. But we've got to have an overall biosolids management plan to fulfill the long run. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's progressed so much now, we're working with a task order to actually kind of develop that biosolids management plan so we can see what the future is going to look like, because it's just going to continue to grow as the plant grows. So we're doing X amount today when we're at full capacity in phase 1. That's basically double. You start going into phase 2, you're tripling, quadrupling that biosolids. So it's being in our region. That's just one of those things. I would love to be green 100%. The agricultural economy here in Montana is not like in other places where we can land apply. It's just not affordable. So we already know that one's out. So it's either going to be expanding composting or doing something with Logan landfill, because most everybody around us goes to Logan. They take over the biosolids to Logan. So that's what we're working on with that.
So that smaller interim project is there under the next to last bullet, and there's 5 darker bullets there, but upsizing and replace digested sludge pumps, refurbish the belt filter press, install the centrifuge, polymer feed, and a new conveyor belt to enable staff to haul directly to Logan landfill. So we all agreed we owe the board a summary description of what that is and a cost estimate. So we'll be coming to you in January or February at the latest with what that looks like. And then an initial cut at what the long-term biosolids program should look like, whether it's all of it goes to Logan landfill, which believe it or not may be the most cost effective, versus, as Johnny alluded to, kind of a hybrid. You can go to Logan, you can do some composting, or if you all said, we want to get back to where we were, where we compost everything, that's going to get rather expensive, but we'll show those 3 options to you and help you make a decision.
Interesting.
Johnny, when we haul it to Logan, what do we use? Do we have our own vehicles?
So right now we use roll-offs, but if we were to progress with that more long-term, you can purchase push-off trailers and then either contract with Logan or a company to come up and just pick them up and take them and bring them back.
Okay.
If we do it in-house, that's at least a day, because it's 2 to 3 hours to get to Logan, 2 to 3 hours to get back. So you're losing an FTE a day every time you haul the trailer down here. So that'll all be part of that technical memo on what we look at and what's most cost effective, gathering the data on how many solids is actually produced. Especially when we get the centrifuge in, it's a little bit drier, discussing with Logan. So it'll pretty much be based on tonnage, and then we can go with best way. But right now we're doing it at least 2 30-ton roll-offs a week.
Oh,
So,
Well, I was gonna ask.
yeah, now they're not full 30 tons because we can only do like 20, 22 or so. So
Just the moisture.
yeah.
So 40 or so tons a week?
Yeah. That's because we're producing, roughly 12-13% cake. Centrifuge hopefully can double, maybe even triple that. And if we have some time and space, again, you get into air quality and stuff. If we, have biosolids bays where we can dry it out in space. Right now it's pretty wet, so it's pretty heavy. But the more drier we can get it, then the more we can haul.
And we'll look at an actual dryer as well, but that equipment is substantial, expensive, and has an off gas that got to get squared away with DEQ, and So you're kind of at a crossroads of what are we going to do for the next 20 years? But in the meantime, we want to help Clark and staff out with some minor improvements over there to make life a little bit easier until we get that long-term program figured out.
Big jump.
It's kind of
Good to have a complete breakdown.
Yeah. How did this we didn't recognize this was gonna happen when we designed the plans, or so it's something that's kind of a new.
I consider it a ripple effect, so anytime you build something that's in the plants that I've expanded or built, we've never had biosolids as an alternate. It was automatically either if it could be expanded, you expanded it, or you knew what was coming down the pipe. I wasn't here during design, so I don't.
It was about $2.1 million that bid alternate that got eliminated, Mike, and that was kind of the interim. It wasn't a long-term solution by any means, but we only awarded one bid alternate, if you remember, out of 5 because of budget, because of construction costs, and that was the 3 additional basins.
So what you're saying is we made a decision a while ago and now
Kick the
we
can.
delayed the can, and now we got it.
Now,
Like I don't remember if you might remember the centrifuge was 500,000. I remember at the beginning. I think what's our
we
the latest number though?
50.
Yeah. But that was project costs, I thought.
Yeah.
500. And now last run was 2.7, I think, or 2.
Yeah, we're 2.5 million for this.
So those are some of the things I think to get a complete breakdown. I mean, I think there's probably going to be what we're going to realize is this. It's going to be an interim plan that we're going to have to budget out to a 5-10 year cycle or 20-year cycle like you're doing. But yeah, that's a shocker to hear these numbers.
Yeah.
We're all kind of going really.
Yeah, I mean, just to upgrade the ECS to the latest cloud-based version, because we're operating off a version that has to operate off of 2007 operating system. That's no longer supported.
Windows 7.
Windows 7. So to upgrade that
Must be torture for someone like you.
is 25,000, and ECS bins are running
87,000.
80 to 100,000 a piece. We've looked at in vessel, which we have room to put 4 in vessels in the building, which is almost 3 ECS bins a piece. But again, we got to have curing space. And then ECS is not recommending putting those in the building. They're actually recommending building those outside, which next to the admin building on the east side where we got our wood chips and stuff, we do have some room, but we're kind of finding that ROI and that happy medium and how far do we take it and how far does it grow, cost benefits and stuff. So it's time and energy to do the composting versus getting it good enough just to go to the landfill, which is processing and making sure we're meeting T-clips, which is the
Maturity test
and reduction in E. coli and stuff like that. And then they go put it through their composting process and then they use it as land services.
Logan does?
Yeah. So we want to
confirm that they take we want to confirm that they take and it's really only to confirm it as honestly a softer side decision of you all have composted for your entire existence. Recently, we're using a safety valve to go to Logan. Logan composts some now. They're putting in a new, larger composting facility, and we want to go look at that. We being you all and staff to say, would you also compost ours? Because then it becomes even more probably an easier decision from the environmental perspective of. It's getting composted and reused anyway. Let's not spend millions of dollars more to compost up here. We'll lay it out for you, but Clark did the quick math on back of an envelope during the meeting of 2-3 bins or those in-vessel systems. That's multi-million dollars. That's a lot of trucks. That'll pay for a lot of trucks to landfill.
Yeah, over a long period of time. Of course, if we focus more on dragger content, that weighs less than makes it cheaper.
It's a tough one. That
It is.
that in-house hauling through the canyon, let's face it, you're not in the trucking business.
No.
And you're not geared for the trucking business.
Right.
And that canyon traffic is just a different animal than it was even 3 years ago. So that's a concern if you try to go down that path. But you're gonna have a complete financial analysis for us to review, and that'd be great to maybe cafeteria plan it and put in a time plan.
Most municipalities your size would contract the trucking. There's a few that do it themselves, but not many.
I can see Peter driving the big legs just cruising along with music going. It doesn't. We're not truckers. We're
Most
just
of
not
them
truckers.
don't have to drive 30 minutes through the canyon, so.
Yep.
A lot of liability in that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, moving
All right.
on. Storage reservoirs. Pond 2 clean out is done as Clark alluded to. Denali's out of here. Uh, Johnny asked us to put together a scope and fee to upgrade Pond 2 now, meaning a new liner. And as long as we're putting in a new liner, put a slope in it. That was one reason some of you knew Denali couldn't completely clean that pond out because it's flat as a pancake, which is really unusual for a storage reservoir of that nature. Usually you would have a slope to a sump where you can fully dewater it. So I want to look at regrading it before they reline it, and then have an access, basically a pier with rails to drop pumps down into that sump and pump it into the siphon back over to the plant. So that pond would become essentially a emergency retention basin, which is a really nice feature for a wastewater treatment plant to have. It makes sense that I don't want to spend too much time here, but Pond 2 was where the effluent from the SBR was pumped before it was filtered in the old filter building and then discharged into 1 or 3 for irrigation. So Pond 2 is uniquely plumbed to not ride with 1 and 3. And we talked at times about, well, should we just rip the berms and make, Pond 2 part of Pond 1 or something like that? I think probably better solution, it's only 8 million gallons, is to have it as a emergency retention basin where we can divert influent over there at times if there's a project over at the plant in the future where you want to shut off flow for a while and do some work, you'll be able to do that. But it would be much easier if you can pump it right back into the siphon box and get it to the plant later rather than having it sit there and go anaerobic. And so we'll put that together. We've put together our scope and fee for it. That'll also have a cost estimate, and like to get the relining done regardless next summer. If budget allows, then also get the pier access rails, pumps, and the regrading.
And a couple on to some of that, when we took money at the end of the loan for the clean out and relining. So that's again where that lies. We're going to move the rock in-house. But just, with the complications and cost of cleaning it out twice, and it kind of being separated and segregated. In September, we had a phasing issue that shut down the plant. Generator didn't run. We didn't have power. We actually had to divert the plant over there. I think it was overnight. So that happened while Denali was cleaning out the pond and stuff. So we talked about it with the siphon because upgrading, and then you got to upgrade the siphon and stuff too. It's just, it really works out well. If by chance, for some reason, we do have to put reuse in it, then our SOP would be standard protocol that would automatically just go back through the plant. We would put that through. Because we don't have filters over here anymore, we can't draw it out and do anything with it to ensure that it's compliant. So it would just go back to the plant and keep that operations like that and keep it separated from the other reuse plants. So a little bit of a safety feature, but if someone come in or die for some odd reason, that's a little bit extraneous, or the plant shuts down, we've got that safety net.
Some states require that you have an emergency retention basin. Montana doesn't, but There are a handful of plants in the state that do, and I can't say enough about it after 25 years of watching people need them at times. I think it's a good move environmentally and just to help protect the plant and effluent quality.
Yeah,
Have we looked at that heat exchange system in, which pond is that,
it's right here in pond 2 or pond 1.
for Lone Peak?
Yep, so we turned on the recirc pump and pumped the water up from the lower pond, so that's why this pond's fuller. So it covered that.
Because it's drained over. Is that thing working?
As far as I know, they have not come over, said anything to us.
That is bizarre. That is bizarre that that's in there.
We'll definitely have conversations with them in the future about either redesign or something. Because there could be times that pond is a lot lower.
Yeah.
And we, not saying that we wouldn't have the water, but I don't want our operations to be surrounded by a heat exchanger and lagoon.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Operations assistance.
Hang on, we need to talk about Spanish Peaks because they asked about it in October, and I had you specifically read it, so that's what we got up right now. Or is that?
Just above there, real quick. I
I
alluded to using our construction administration budget that's closes out for Zach and others to help Clark and staff. And that's the short term. Long term, we're putting that assistance into the on-call. I call it district engineering contract we have with you. That's an annual 2-year amendment we worked through with you all in the past. Putting that and Ryan Graff's, Ryan's closed out his financial, forget what the exact name of the task order was, but basically the financial consulting piece, the investment charges, the rate studies into this as well. And we'll put that in front of Johnny as an amendment, and it's up to $150,000 annually. It's time and materials, so if you don't use it, you don't use it. It's basically you call us and tell us what you want to do, and we do it without having to generate a big independent specific task order. Spanish Peaks. So Ryan Thompson's here. As Johnny said, Brian had asked for an update, and Ryan's been working on that and is in the room. And Ryan, if you don't mind, you'll do a better job walking through this than I would.
Yeah, so the deed transfer and certificate of survey was submitted on September 5th, 2025. I have yet to hear from the county on when that's been made official. We jumped through a lot of, I don't want to say hoops, but it took a lot of work for them to submit that. So I know they were a little backed up. Can reach out to them and see where that's going. Next steps for that would include existing the PUD. We would need to modify that to comply with open space requirements for that 1A subdivision up at Spanish Peaks. And then the conditional use permit and land use permit, those are to operate on the space. Initially, the county notified us that we wouldn't have to submit a conditional use permit. They then backtracked a couple months later and notified us that it would probably be just to submit a conditional use permit. And then the land use permit is conditional on the square footage of the building. Both are pretty straightforward permitting applications as long as we're compliant. Don't see an issue there. We won't be able to submit those until we at least have preliminary draft sheets of the building and the design. So around 30% designs can submit those. But again, those are pretty standard procedure permits that I don't see an issue when the time comes.
Yep. And just to remind people, when the time comes is now really dictated by Firelight Meadows and when you would encroach on needing the full 160 million gallons to be pumped up to Spanish Peaks and Yellowstone Club. You're not there yet. So that building or that booster station, we had it at about $7 million. There's no reason to go do it tomorrow. But it's there. It's going to be necessary eventually. And so hanging on to the land use permitting that Ryan's done is wise.
But as of now, the land was this deed transfer was submitted, so it's in their court and should be the district's permission to use it. It's here.
Any questions? Yeah. Keep cruising.
Yeah.
Wastewater facility plan, still on hold. We've done the collection system model, but you have to tie all that off with the master plan, and that's okay. I think Johnny and staff are cranking, and there's nothing they're waiting on to do their jobs from that task order. We'll dust that off someday when there's fewer things to do and more budget. Reuse program, we provided the district with a task order to complete a database of all the existing reuse infrastructure. And this is something Brian's been asking for quite a while. I want to know the value of, say, for example, the 7 Mile pipeline going up to YC, because that's an asset. It's an asset that's aging and someday going to need to be replaced or paralleled or whatever it might be. But kind of knowing the replacement value of all this infrastructure you've got that you operate, and as well as the OM. So for existing infrastructure, you would have the OM and R, operations, maintenance, and replacement costs. For future reuse projects, we would just pull all the cost estimation we have done for you piecemeal together. So you basically have a chapter of the reuse management plan that would be completely about OM and R value of existing infrastructure plus the cost estimates for future reuse infrastructure. And there's about 6 of those alternatives that are possible someday reuse projects that will be in there. And that's a relatively small task order, about 17,000 that Ryan put together and can crank on this winter. Firelight Meadows had a good workshop last week, as folks said. We have an amendment to the original Firelight Meadows task order we did in 2020 for you, just to jog people's memories. The first piece of that was Mark Cunane's groundwater discharge aquifer study over there. He completed that work as the subconsultant to 82S. We took that. His recommendations were first steps, better test wells, monitoring wells to be put in downstream of the drain fields over there, because the existing test wells are not in the right location or at the right depth to really catch the plume that's underneath there. And, it's important that everybody understands what the district would be inheriting over there if they took it over. So the cost of those test wells, I believe, was about $160,000. The idea was that we would split that with Firelight Meadows at the time, and it wasn't Firelight Meadows per se. It was HLH South Fork Utilities declined to chip in, and so the project was parked. So we're amending that now to move forward to act as the district's engineer on everything Firelight Meadows. So all the infrastructure that you would need to connect their wastewater to your collection system and send reuse water back. Water would be parked for now because of place of use issues with your water rights. You couldn't serve them water right away anyway. And it's not an emergency per se. With the conditions over at Firelight Meadows and the discharge to the aquifer, that's priority number 1. So we will basically figure out the demarcation line between what the district would take over in a potential annexation, where the property what is your property and what are you going to own and operate versus what Firelight Meadows, water and sewer district, you know, the laterals to the condos and those sorts of the smaller pieces and parts where that line is. And Firelight Meadows Water and Sewer District will get an evaluation of anything that's going to be kept in service, essentially. And then Firelight Meadows Water and Sewer District needs to go work out their deal with HLH, South Fork Utilities, to buy out them so they own all the infrastructure. And then once we get into annexation negotiations, we can work with DEQ to figure out what your reuse permit would look like over there. We're going to try to maximize that and get as much as 86 million gallons a year of groundwater discharge. By taking over those drain fields, we would need to rehab them. But essentially, this is all the preliminary engineering and permitting work that would need to be done for the district. So you'll see that soon.
And that was my update. So kill two birds with one stone.
Gallatin Canyon wastewater collection and disposal. Its project is effectively on hold as far as the district side of it. A2S Nexus, aka Ryan Graff, continues to assist WGM and the Canyon District with cost modeling for the district's potential use. And Mace and Johnny had some communications over the Highway 64 corridor right-of-way work with MDT that we don't necessarily want. Nobody really wants to walk away from because it's such a onerous process with them. So, Johnny or Mace, you want to add anything to that, or?
Ready for my kid
Sure.
update?
Let's do it there.
So based on email last week, it's that MDT corridor is still a priority, I guess, if you guys are gonna be making a decision of whether the coast solution stays live or doesn't. It's a pinch point, specifically where the guardrail, and I think they call it the sheep bluff, where they hang out at the pinch point that MDT raised geotechnical concerns. We did geotechnical analyses, or at least characterization, to get to kind of a meeting with MDT. That all paused as we waited to see how this proposed solution stayed on the tracks, because we ultimately need the CMGC contractor to advance that assessment. And that's kind of a second scope that we have been planning on, almost a joint agreement execution with that CMGC contractor. So we hit pause roughly around October to let the dust settle on some of this. If you all want to advance that Highway 64 corridor, at least from a MDT standpoint, pinch point, that would, if we stay on the track we were planning on with the CMGC contractor helping that, we would want to get them engaged fairly quickly. We have a $200,000 grant through the county that we were relying on to pay for those services. And to do that, it is essentially a joint project, and there's a paperwork effort between the two boards. So that's a step that if it is, let's pick up steam again on that corridor. That'd be my recommendation from a joint committee perspective, is let's get back to where we were essentially 3 months ago, revisit what are the steps to execute. So
Yeah,
pause there on it.
we went through the process of prioritizing our needs, and Firelight and stuff. This is a big hurdle for that joint project. Without it, there is no joint effort. Timeframe could be 2 to 3 years. But without a definitive no or pathway from MDT, which right now everything looks favorable, we still got to have those meetings to show that without that piece, we're off the table. So, and we can't give an answer to that piece without going through this process to get it. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and that's what I told Mace, and that's what we're informed is right. That's the biggest hurdle for us, is having that pathway through.
What's that dust?
Who's dust? That basically earmarking 200,000 to work with contractor and step through specific design elements for that pinch point. And so there's $200,000 earmarked of grant money. Whether that's all that we do as a part of that, or whether there should be engineering that advances with that. I actually haven't even thought that far. But yeah, I'd say $200,000 minimum, but then you need an A2S component, a WGM component to facilitate those MDT meetings and basically pick up where we left off. So there's probably 200,000 for the CMGC, and we also have an independent cost estimate engaged. So whether that's enough for both of those entities to nail down those costs in that corridor, and then for A2S and WGM to work with MDT, I haven't thought that far. So
We got a couple things going for us. DEQ gave us the deviation to have the two pipes in the same trench. Geotech came back favorable in the pitch, which was a big concern from MDT. But engineers have got to basically lay out the plan or best foot forward to get the pipe through the ground, scheduling shutdown network, and kind of have a whole plan together, which I think is what we need before we even go talk to the MDT, because they're going to want to see all that stuff.
Are there any special considerations that having the two pipes in the same trench?
So leak detection and some other stuff, I have to let the engineers speak to that. Kelsey's not on, so I don't know if you guys can talk. You were.
Yeah, I haven't reviewed it a couple months now. It was leak detection. We did have to offset vertically by, I believe, minimum an inch. Yeah.
Yep. And we always have pressure analysis, so online pressure readings to tell if the pressure changed in the pipe because it busted a leak, you would get an alarm. And then we have water quality on the reuse side down the canyon, where we would be testing and say, hey, there's coliform in here, what's going on? So and all those, Peter, were used with DEQ of, look, we have lots of belts and suspenders here to detect a leak. So let us put them in the same trench to get through this eye of the needle. And they bought off on that.
Nice. Good job with that. Field for the north out.
Yeah, that took 6 months, and MDT is, like I said, even more onerous. So I think, Mace, what you're alluding to is continue that effort. If you never build the infrastructure, but you've still teed it up with MDT, to me, that's a better outcome than if you park it and we sit around for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and then the project comes back to life and we have to restart the process with MDT. That probably doesn't make much sense.
You're holding the pace to actually be meeting with MDT before this holiday stretch of, let's get the contractor on board, let's address that pinch point, let's see what their concerns are. They highlighted that they wanted kind of this hyper-intensive or geological analysis, and our geotech was saying that was overkill for this, and so we were going to get that meeting done so we weren't spending money to overanalyze this. So it'd be pick up that pace again. I think we could be in front of MDT in a few months and start to have a feel for that. And in theory, if we just walk away with an easement in hand where that legwork's done, we know what it takes to engineer that pinch point, we know the costs for that corridor, we have the independent cost estimator engaged as under the canyon already, so he's ready to assess that from a third party. So it feels somewhat like a no-brainer to at least get it through that part of the Highway 64 challenge. So from a canyon district standpoint, my presentation to the board 2 weeks ago was generally a synopsis that Firelight is Big Sky Water and Sewer District's near-term focus priority. That is going to be your lower cost commitment to be able to dispose, like less hurdles to navigate. So I kind of communicated why that focus, plus a risk to your drinking water source and all those aspects. So they've heard that. What I'm sensing from the canyon is they've got till 2027 to do something or go dormant. And I don't know what they're going to choose to do. We've got funding through 2027 from an operations standpoint. We're advancing our 60% disposal design to 75% plus, so we kind of lock in the details with DEQ for that aspect. So that's what we're continuing to advance is secure that disposal certainty, discharge permit certainty. And then if it becomes the Highway 64 corridor is too cost prohibitive or some other logistic, I think they'll seriously consider to go it alone, but we're just navigating as those hurdles present themselves or we eliminate them. So
good summary.
Yeah.
I just don't want to give the wrong impression. I know it's been 2 months since the meeting, but the fact is you're dead on with the challenges. So the threat of firelight, number one. I think everybody here still supports the canyon. I don't want to speak for the board, but canyon, you've done a great job. But the timing right now, it just bumped it up on the priority list on where we go with this. They both absolutely dovetail into plant expansions, either phase 2 or 2.0 or 2.1, however we want to say this. These all dovetail. They're all priorities. It's just where they sit in the immediate needs. The threat changes the game plan. So.
If we go forward with both Firelight and the canyon, do we absorb those districts? Do they go away? Do we absorb all the assets and the responsibilities? So we don't have 3 separate boards, or how's that?
I think Firelight is an annexation.
That's our plan.
Firelight Dick, I don't want to bundle the two together.
Yeah.
Firelight is completely different. It borders our boundary. It satisfies the criteria for annexation with the fact that it's adjacent to our boundary. So that's a complete annexation. It'd be similar to the annexations we're reviewing, whether it's Flatiron, whether it's Spanish Peaks, or whether it's Boyne. So that one's in that box. Canyon, I'm going to let you address Canyon, what your vision is, but I see the two completely separate.
yeah, I think the Canyon District could go either way. It's like, what's maybe the legal liability umbrellas dynamics? What's the like a wholesale service agreement model dynamic that is just cleaner, that allows like Skywwater and Sewer District to just operate in the best interest of their current users versus take on that expanded user base. I could say it's a coin flip. I can tell you we get multiple years down the road. I don't know that you'll know numbers and those pros cons.
Thank you. Still big support. Still at the table. It's just shifting in our place on the bus.
We want to get things started again. We'll need to reconvene the technical review committee sooner than later. So
Yeah,
Johnny and I will coordinate.
that's my recommendation to my board. We have to have it, or off the table. So without MDTs, signing off, that would be our focus, and that's all I would be providing updates for is where we're at in that process. So love to be able to give you the timeline, but until we actually start it, we don't know what it is, but it's gonna be 2 to 3 years. But without it, we're not connecting to the game. So they need to know that too, whether they're definitely going it alone or we can influence that board and recommend a pause. You got to go through this process, which could take a while. It'll take you past 7. But they've got easement planning and all that down there as well. But
Yeah, from my perspective, the Canyon Board will be making their decisions mid-2026 of is it a complete pivot and get the ball rolling there, because their financial model to succeed relies on private development, not spending their money on go to their own little pocket solutions. So that's going to be a judgment call of the Canyon Board, and I feel like they earmark kind of that mid-2026 decision point. So.
And again, we went 2 months without a meeting, but in case anyone missed maybe some of the things that have been said or in the press, it's not just committees talking or doing this and that. Bizrat has said this. We will get the expansion. Was that a comment on one of our meetings?
It was a comment, you know,
Okay, it was a comment. I mean, a recent comment. It was a comment last January.
there's no how, but.
Yeah, we're gonna get it. So, look, I don't want these to be competitive in nature. It's this. Our goal, state the goal. The goal is the plant expansion. BizRed has supported the plant expansion. It's how both of these entities are prioritized in the plant expansion. And Al's got a lot of the cash flow options that he's been talking about, things like that. But the fact of the matter is, this isn't about one or the other or different projects. They all tie into one thing, plant expansion and planning right now, so that we don't get behind on reuse, that we don't all of a sudden face a brick wall in 3 or 4 years. They all work together with the plant conditions that the board supported, the 12 million, the trains, the alternate, everything that we did lead to the plant expansion. That's it. So how we get there, we all have to be pulling in the same direction. So
Any decisions we have to make today? Or any?
No.
You were looking for a decision.
No decision today, but we need to reconvene that joint committee, technical review committee, whichever is kind of the priority, so.
It says 200,000, but like, you're responsible for any of that, or that, so that's.
No, that's still grant money. So far, we've navigated roughly 5 years of this project with Big Sky Water and Sewer District. I don't believe cut the check. Yeah, so.
I need our support.
Yeah, ultimately, we do need your support. I will say that we've navigated 5 years without touching that $12 million pot to maintain the match in some of these grant funding hurdles. And to do this CMGC stuff, I think that $12 million pot will start even
that back. We preemptively did work and put in the line.
Yeah, and there's some behind the scenes opportunities to document that match with legwork either tied to the phase 2 work or some prep work. So that's a ARPA funding. We've used $2 million of ARPA funds that we've had to map, document 100 or 50, like a 2 million to match that whole way. That hasn't been easy for across that 5-year span, but we're starting to run out of the strategies there. So that $12 million pot has been intentionally, let's make sure we don't give away the free money that we've landed and protect that Big Sky money to keep carried on. So we're kind of at that decision point right on it. So
you'll let us know when you make that decision.
We have a task order with the district, Mike, just that's why it's kind of confusing. We bill our work to you because we represent you. Those bills are then sent over to Mason the Canyon to pay out of that grant money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mace. John?
Water master plan, working for Jake, getting close here. I looked at the draft with our engineers, and they needed to do some more work on potential blending up at Mountain Village of wells that have. I think you all recall this. There's several wells up there with several very minor but different water quality issues, whether it's H2S or arsenic or iron and manganese. And looking at blending those, this goes back to when Musket was here, and we were looking at, can we possibly blend our way out of any future treatment up there, or will we need a treatment facility? That was roughly 2021, 2022. We put a cost on a groundwater treatment plant up there to basically, sledgehammer approach, knock those water quality issues out, not have to blend, not have to come up with a relatively complicated kind of SCADA control system to bring certain wells on and off and stay within running averages of those contaminants. So they needed to wrap that up a little better. And then down in the Meadow Village, looking harder at alkalinity and hardness. And is there any other way to reduce hardness with the wells you have versus again, a sledgehammer approach of having a central softening facility so that you can once and for all get rid of salt-based water softening in the district. And so I think they're getting close with those analyses. Put that in front of you and get to a capital improvements plan with staff that everybody agrees on. These are the projects we need to chew through in the next 5 years. These are 5 to 15, and these are, some days. Jake, you want to add anything there? Or?
Yeah, there was a couple of good things in there. It looks like we're adequately, production wise or adequate for the next, little bit until we get another, COVID growth spurt or, 5 to 10 more years. The non-revenue water has gone from about 35%, in 2018 to about 15% now. So that's good that we're using all the water that we're producing for a lot more of it. But there's a couple of big ones. The sweetgrass area, fire flows are inadequate. If there were a fire over there or a fire truck, fire hydrant can run for about 1 hour, maybe a little bit less before that tank is depleted. And then it's relying on water to come from booster station at about 200 gallons a minute. So obviously that math doesn't work out right. I was in favor of putting a fire out. That project to alleviate that bottleneck is putting an upsized tank in that Northwest Energy plot that we worked on, and upsizing booster station and associated SCADA stuff like that. So that's a not small ticket item, obviously. Probably they'll have mild piping and a lot of expensive boosters and obviously a tank. The hydrants elsewhere in the meadow area that fall below the 1,500 gallons a minute, but they're kind of just placed in random sections where I think piping increase of diameter can solve some of that, and then some looping. And then fire flow wise, the mountain side of the system is in standing. So
the other big one that's going to come with that is we got some AC pipes, some old pipes. So it's asbestos concrete, which is an abatement. So we have to have a specialized crew come in to replace that line. So that could be kind of pricey to do that. So,
one quick process through the prayer here, so that's a complexity of cost.
Yep. Because we know that sweetgrass improvements are coming regardless. We are putting together a task order and fee proposal for Jake and Johnny to look at and consider, because that's a no-brainer that'll be in the high priority CIP list coming out of the water master plan. And the plan is, Johnny, if you want to book probably an hour, if you all can stand it, in January, where David Carlson would come and present the draft water master plan.
Yeah.
Financial support will be under district engineering services now. Salinity reduction. Still got mainly just public education support. Try to get people to take better care of their existing softening systems. Optimize where they can in the interim here until we figure out long-term solutions. District engineering, I think we're good. I think I'm done. Thank you for bearing with me. It was a little longer than usual.
Well, we're, coming into budget and testament to what staff and the board has accomplished just in this last year. When we say we're busy, we're not kidding. We're doing a lot of stuff, which is a good segue into the next topic, which is our water application, which we finally just signed off on. So Julie, Mike, hopefully we still have Mike.
Yep. Yeah. Good morning, guys. Julie Merritt with WGM Group here. I've been talking at you a few times about the district's water rights, and about this time last year, we had a meeting with the DNRC, and we had originally planned to address points of diversion, place of use, and developing a consistent municipal purpose across all of the water rights. there's about a dozen water rights that are involved here, and they all have kind of their own history. So one of the goals was to make things as consistent as possible, to make it clear for future operators, future directors, to be able to not have to like dig into the minutia of this every time they have a question about their water rights. So the DNRC, there was a lot of things that were up in the air, I guess, about some of the wells. And so we just kind of had it on a shelf for a while. In November, we had what was supposed to be a pre-application meeting scheduled with the DNRC. And our proposal at that time had been to change points of diversion, place of use, and purpose. The DNRC has given us a lot of pushback on being able to change our points of diversion based on their rather thin understanding of the different aquifers that the points of diversion are located in. So rather than get into a big argument with them about that, what we have chosen to do is to scale back the water right application, to leave the point of diversion question out of it for now. We can, if things change or when things change and decisions about the point of diversion change are more settled, we can come back and file another change application. But as it's proposed now, and we had another pre-application meeting with them on December 10th, which I believe went pretty well, we are planning so that green hatch on the map that you're seeing right there is what we're proposing for the entire new place of use for all of the water rights. So it would just make them all consistent and all be able to use in any part of the area that the district currently serves. And as you can tell, we've included some areas that are currently outside of the district boundaries, but are reasonable to assume that, some point in the next 10, 20 years, that some of those areas are going to come in to the district. And instead of having to continually change the place of use of those water rights, our proposal is to make this big, broad place of use area. And then the only other aspect that we're proposing to change then is the purpose. So because of the kind of different history that these water rights have, some of them have commercial use, some of them have multiple domestic use, some of them say lawn and garden, some of them say municipal. What we want in the end is for all of the water rights to say that the purpose of use is municipal. And so this little table just kind of is a little crosswalk of what the purpose is now and what we would be changing it to. And that simplifies things a lot for the DNRC. So we're hoping that will make it easier to get this application through the process. And Mike's here. If he wants to weigh in on anything, feel free.
You're doing just fine, Julie. I don't know. I mean, I can help answer questions about things, but.
Yep. Mainly, we've made the application a little more simple. Hopefully that'll get through the regulatory process more easily. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
What would be the practical result of these changes of use?
Well, for one, it makes sure that the district is in compliance, because the water rights all, came to be at different parts and different times. They cover different areas. And we don't have that in this packet, but in past presentations that I've given to you guys, I showed that the groups of water rights cover specific areas, and none of them cover the entire area. So one of the main goals is to be sure that the district is in compliance and that they are within their rights to deliver water basically from any of the wells that are connected to the system to any part of the system. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And I guess the only thing we really, I think that Julie scaled back was the original plan was to actually have each water right, not only, well, each well can cover the entire place of use is the goal of the change. And the thing we scaled back, we got pushback on was having each water right to be able to be diverted from any well, regardless of that well's location. And we were getting pushback on the aquifers and DNRC saying that there was a difference in the aquifer characteristics and that we couldn't change from one aquifer to another.
And so I'd say that the book on that isn't completely written. We'll see. I think there's further discussions to be had with DNRC about that. So, as the district plans for improvements to any of the wells on the water system, that could be something that drives maybe a future water right application. So I think it's good that the water right application and your draft master water plan are kind of going forward at the same time. That should be a good effective use of everybody's time. Any other questions? All right. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. If you guys need anything, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie and Mike. Ryan stepped out, but we've already got over annexation. So brings us to the portion of our board inquiries and comment. So we have this section reserved for when the board asks specific questions for us to follow up on and things we've been working on. So that's been asked, and we've gotten to a point to where we can provide a lot of those updates. We've already done some of that, so we've already knocked out the water master plan and the well assessment update, which we're still waiting to get that final report from Mr. Potts, which will go into a plan. So we could still close out test wells and stuff, but in order for us to close out wells and move water rights, we've got to go through this other process that Julie and Mike were talking about. That's what we're removed from our current place of use. So we will still plan to rehab a couple wells that we think we can bring back to production and stuff, especially up on Mountain Village. We've got to expand some wells in Meadow Village and stuff to increase our pumping capacity and stuff, but that's pretty good. So the big one that we've been working on the last few months, as the guys alluded to, this is green. This is something new for the district. Very few of us in our careers have actually been through this process, and some of us have actually been pretty fortunate. Most of it's already been built toward for the team to come in. So we had gone through this last year. We had originally selected Central Square. They did some fuddy-duddy stuff. We walked away immediately. And then OpenGov and everybody else that came after really got scrutinized after Central Square's ordeal. We ended up with OpenGov. It's a two-part. And so what Jake alluded to is we still have ISRI, we still have ArcGIS, but they have a component that we're importing ArcGIS stuff to, which is where Jake really lives with his portion. But that also dovetail into our assets management and our computerized maintenance management system, which is what the WRF is falling under. So that's what generates our work orders, and we can do asset management, we can get depreciation. So it dovetails into the financial. We did look at their financials. It just wasn't affordable to keep it all in one platform. But for the asset management, it's actually two-pronged. We do have the ArcGIS component of it, to where these guys can be out in the field. They should be able to click on a curb stop or a hydrant or whatever, and they can pull that asset up in the field and then generate work orders for all the work that we're doing, leak repairs, got pull in inspection reports and stuff. So you get this collective database where we can do cost analysis, life cycle costs. We can do other things, time and material, which just helps, gives us better budget and planning for CIP. So a component of this also helps prioritize some of those replacements and life cycles. That, hey, you're nearing this, you've done good maintenance. Hopefully in proactive maintenance, we can extend the equipment life. So if it's got a 10-year cycle, you can, really start planning, but maybe you get a couple more years out of it. So if you got to kick the can down the street a little bit, you can kind of gauge that and say, yeah, we can safely go one more year before we got to do this. So it's not pushing it to reactive or, deferred maintenance, as we like to call it, but you're more into that system planning. So, like our membranes and stuff, it's a 10-year life cycle. You had got a quote on replacements, $500,000. So we had arbitrarily projected $1 million to replace those, but $500,000. So we keep that going, we can keep an eye. We can put that cost value in there. So we know when that time comes, our depreciation should have accounted for that cost when it comes to replace. You got 30 some pumps, electronics and all kinds of stuff. So, we got a plan for computers and all that stuff usually here in the 3 to 5 year range. So we know preemptively that this stuff is coming and we can proactively get it in the budget. So, and then when it comes time, then you get your actual costs for those replacements. So just helps us with forecasting and planning going down. The other system that Clark was talking about, we've used Excel spreadsheets. That was early on in my career. We've got some massive Excel spreadsheets that if we leave a lot of data. So in our mission for security and, being able to be transparent and stuff, the other one that we're looking at is Ops 10. I was in on this program in its infancy. Its counterpart is Hawk Films, which is a little bit more expensive. We have Hawk equipment, we get Hawk stuff, but Ops 10 is a database where you can pull in samples. So you see all those graphs, you see all those reports. We'll have that historical data. It's backed up and we can generate any report that we want for operations. And then the staff can see the trends, they can see the history lifetime as it's coming in instead of having to maintain and protect all these Excel spreadsheets that we got out. They got a wastewater side and they got a water side. So our water usage and stuff can all be tracked in. All the lab data is all in one place. And so it just really centralizes and brings the team into a more realistic operation, since operations is pretty quick. So when you're looking at a logbook and you're looking at data in its day in this platform, you can look at a year, a month, a day, all the way out. So what we present is monthly, but then you can start seeing year to date stuff as we progress throughout the year and how those operations. So, this also helps us maintain compliance and predict off of that past information to predict where the thing's going. So when temperatures change, the staff can preemptively cut air back, knowing that temperature is gonna affect. So they can see that and refer back. So you can so years at a time. And then the last one.
The last one's the billing software. We've been using Black Mountain for, I don't know how long, Terry. For almost.
As long as I've been here.
Yeah. It's time to modernize. And we're trying to, we looked at OpenGov, but the cost was just too cost prohibitive. So we've landed on a company called Kuzi. They provide merchant services plus billing. Right now we have 3 different software providers that are customers and we interact with, and we're going to put that down to 2. We'll still have our water monitoring with WaterSmart, but merchant services and billing will be together. which should allow for the user experience to be significantly better. The cost is a little bit higher. It's like 11% higher than what we're paying with Black Mountain and Invoice Cloud right now. But there should be significant efficiency within staff too, to try and help cover that cost. Koozi's been around for a very long time, like 3 decades. Right now, Invoice Cloud just moved their customer support to India. We're having no luck working with them. And so that was something that now I reflect on our demos, and I'm really looking forward to that change. We'll save costs too with invoicing. We're gonna really find more efficiency here. It's just a more modern system. So in the next 6 months, it's gonna be a heavy lift for us to make this move. Part of the reason why it's great that Terry's gonna be staying. On top of that, like I said, we're moving to a new chart of accounts. We're gonna look at QuickBooks Online. And they actually work well with QuickBooks Online, so that should also create some more efficiency. But I think you guys remember during strategic planning, that was one of the things that you're really looking for. It's just a way to visualize all of these things. And between asset management and this new reporting, we'll spend less time entering information into these spreadsheets and more time presenting to you guys a clear picture of where we're headed. So that's our goal. It's what we've been working towards.
Are we desktop now?
On QuickBooks, yeah. And yeah, to no fault of anyone, we have so many items in our QuickBooks file, it's not functioning well. So we'll be moving that chart. Budgeting is going to be new. It's going to be a pretty heavy lift for the next 6 months, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
Look at him already. Loving being valuable. He's relevant, that's for sure. You've been preaching this for a while. So.
I mean, we couldn't do it without Terry.
Yeah, I know. That's great. Thank you for staying.
Terry just didn't want to do it alone.
Routine will get.
This is great, but it's all about transition.
Yeah, it's key if you're working 7 days a week.
Oh.
Didn't go.
By the way, that's the whole reason. We all know that, and that are biking, so. Great. We like a good transition.
It's like outer days, mornings, and then the afternoon early.
He's calling the shots, it's good.
I thought we already had like an asset management, didn't we approve a?
We did, that was Central Square.
That was Central Square.
No, lots.
Yep.
So what are the cost differentials for
They were the same to what Central Square originally proposed before they tried to do the whole bait and switch.
Yeah. So we didn't lose out any money on.
No.
So they just got out of that.
So
at the right time and.
They sent that over and I saw that and we went back and forth a little bit and said, yeah, no, we're done. And had Susan review it and we sent them a cease and desist letter.
I think this software allows us to put the plant on, which not all of them do. It also has a 2-way transaction. I know that Esri left all of our pipes and curb stops, all of our inspections live in Esri right now. And so once we move to this new system, it'll sync back and forth, which is really highly valuable to us. I know it's a super heavy lift for everyone right now. The staff is just knee deep in this, but at the end of the day, again, it's going to provide you guys a clearer picture. It's going to make our planning so much better. It's the work is going to pay off in the end for us, but since we've never had it before, the way that Lindsay and I generate work orders is through texts and emails, and there's no way if the customer calls back for us to know that the guys have done the work, even though they usually have. It's just like those kind of loops. This is going to better serve our customers too, but also help our staff.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that, we can use is notate. So, during the busy time of the year, that's almost a full-time FTE. So when we can put all this stuff together and staff utilization and just everything that we do, I think it's a really good picture to paint, not only to the board, but to the community that, this is, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes and we're trying to be transparent and share that story. And it comes at a price. We have to invest. That was part of our strategy, was a highly trained, efficient team, and you got to give them the tools to be able to be efficient. So when you have these platforms and these databases and it's collectively putting in information that somebody would be sitting there manually entering at staff time that could be utilized elsewhere. So we're using the tools. And then the staff can be more productive, and get jobs done faster because they have what they need at their fingertips and stuff, so.
Great. Wow, what a year. I'll just tagline on that. You think about the calendar year coming to a close. And you look at the checkpoints along the way, the June, there's a retreat in June. You look at the things that have been outlined there. Then you look at, of course, the fiscal start of the year. And then you look at now having a meeting like this. It's a lot of stuff up there. And it's great to reflect back on it and where we're going. The biggest thing that comes out of it, though, I don't think we can do it all. So now it just kind of shifts those priorities as you go into a new year in your next 6 months of the fiscal year and say, hey, how are we going to accomplish the top priorities? Just like with Mace, we shifting around a little bit. But the fact is, it's probably the most productive year of reflection. Dick, I'll go to you on it. I mean, that we've seen. Dick, you playing a poker game over there? Something?
Solitaire.
Okay. But I meant what I said. No, I just haven't seen a year really to reflect like that on all the things that are coming in. But it really does put a lot more pressure on you and the team for prioritizing this. Because what I am realizing is can't do everything.
No, we can't do everything. We can't please everybody, but we are striving to be more efficient. I will tell you, I couldn't tell you where 2026 went. It's December. We say all this stuff and it's like, that was 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, a year. I'm pretty sure 2027 is going to be 2026.
Yeah, 2026.
2026 is going to be, just as fast, but this time next year, we're going to even be further ahead. And I do commend, the staff. We're pushing, but and everybody's got a full plate, but we're all pitching and giving and trying to get stuff done. So
keep that culture of fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline. Great. All right. Water master plan. What else do we have? Johnny, anything else you have then?
No, we're just going to keep after it.
Okay.
Got down January 20th, so we will have flat iron ready to go, and we'll continue our work with everything else that we got planned. So.
If I could jump in real quick, I just want to make sure the rest of the board, because we did go 2 months and things changed a lot in those 2 months from Brian and I going to Port Resort Tax, talking about phase 2 of the plant. Well, all of a sudden firelight becomes a major priority of the organization. And I just wanted, I know we got an update from Scott and he kind of covered what you wanted to, but we never really made it a topic that we discussed, and just make sure everybody feels comfortable with where we've gotten to. Because a lot of new information, including the lawsuit, the information that came out of the lawsuit, helped us really understand what a priority this needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Great point, Al. I think a couple things, first of all, avoid skipping a meeting at all costs in the future with this type of pace that you're keeping. Number one. Number two, we've said it all the way along that we don't want to speak for the board without getting the board's support on specific topics. I think that presentation at the BizRad went really, really well. Got a lot of support from BizRad. We immediately had a subcommittee meeting that went really well. The trial obviously went well, but what was triggered in the trial that kind of needed a switch in direction was the firelight. Premise for the trial was the success in the trial was based on firelight and not the district doing anything wrong. That's it. District came out shining star, did a great job, but it really illustrated the threat that we have with firelight. So that's your update. If we're getting ahead of ourselves at all, now's the time, or the next meeting, anything that we can do with communication on the subcommittees or so on. It's a lot going on. A lot going on. But never want to speak.
The key is more just like modeling, financial modeling, right? Before any other decisions are made there.
Yeah. It's interesting. The canyon just didn't fit the timeline for what we're trying to do with Johnny's timeline for the reuse in particular. And that accompanied by the threat. I'm gonna keep using that term threat because it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Kind of shifted things. But Mace, he's still driving the bus. He hasn't lost a beat on it. And again, it's just on a parallel path with us. It's all factored into the plan expansion.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And then 26, there's some timelines and some decisions we may need to make along the way, but Firelight's still, what, 2 years out, 3 years out before something happens, or is there a way?
2 or 3 would be great.
2.
2 years out.
You know, the number one obstacle, I don't want it to be a mystery out there. Speak for the meeting we had the other day was, and for you, it's this. We've got to identify asset versus liability. And we really, really need you before you get too far down the path to identify that with HLH at this point. We had a difficult time coming up. There was another person on that call. We need to understand right away what their assumption is, because right now we're going down the path of saying, you know, what exposure do we have with this? So we just understand if this is even going to work out.
We gave Firelight and did Jim April 1st. BizRad asked for the package by June for the funding applications, so we'll have that ready to go here in the next 2 months, and then we'll go from there.
That's all the exposure related to the annexation. Related to BizRad.
Yep.
Yep, we have a January 6th subcommittee meeting with BizRad again. So went really well. It's great to be able to just sit there and catch up with it. So it's great.
And Brian, you shared with me, because I was at the meeting, but there is some mechanism where you guys are getting assistance, and it might be from you, Mace, I'm not sure. Because I know if you asked me to try to value a sewer system, I would struggle. There's some way to find out, okay, this may be what someone's asking for, but this is what it's actually worth.
Correct. We are speaking with Mace about that very valuation, because you're right, we don't have the ability to do it ourselves.
We did get an engineering report from Gaston Engineering for the original cost of the system, but we still need more of a condition and appraisal report, so we know what it's valued at now, instead of what it was valued at, or the cost of construction, pretty much.
Yeah. That makes sense.
A lot of engineering needs to go on right now, and that's great to have Mace working with them. I think Johnny's there as a coach for the scope of services that needs to be identified for that deadline.
We need to coach.
What's that?
We need to coach him. We're giving them.
Yeah, and you know, again, it was just great to be that candid the other day, and it wasn't critical. It was, hey, let's be clear here. You can't be negotiating something over here for a value, and then we see it as a liability. And then you come to us, or you go to BizRad, and BizRad says, so the district's supporting this acquisition based on this. And then we can't say, no, we need to absolutely be aligned now monthly to make sure that we're going to hit that deadline.
Yeah,
but he's your coach.
For everyone, we are, our goal is to make sure that we are all speaking with one voice. There is no reason for daylight between any of us right now.
Yeah. The timing couldn't have been better for that meeting. And I think, speaking for you a little bit there, that you were just starting to merge to a point, and we said, let's just make sure we get the engineering to support those assumptions as soon as possible. So I think it's a wonderful thing for the community. And it's a good thing for the district to get out ahead of this right now.
In general terms, how much dirt work is there involved? What goes away over there? Some of the equipment just is no longer used.
So TBD, I can tell you that. There's a lot of TBD going on.
And this is why we separated the water and sewer. The water is a standalone system, and it has this production wells and water tank and stuff. For the sewer system, you got the conveyance, the pipes, their treatment goes away, and then we have to evaluate and expand and rehab the drain fields.
So we have a pipe coming down here, but we have to put a reuse pipe up.
Yeah, so again, this is where that mid-mountain booster station and why we preemptively tied that. We don't need the booster station right away. We can just connect it with the pipe and valves. As a pressure alone, we'll push it that way. So off of Uso Falls, off of our line going up, that's how we get reuse back over where their drain fields are, and then that pipe comes around. So if you Firelight in South Fork, there's a little easement shot that can come across where they're looking to build a school. Is how they can gravity over to us that way, so.
If you add the, let's say we get 86 million gallons, the kind of our upper goal with Firelight to the 180 up the, 60 up the mountain, then to do the 160 plus the 80-ish at Firelight, you need to drop the pressure in that pipeline by building the reuse booster station and breaking the head so that the bottom half of the pipeline has the capacity to both get to Firelight and to the new wet well at the Spanish Peaks drop off.
Yeah, and then through our reuse management plan, we've got a lot of green space over there. We can also irrigate, and then it gives us an avenue to come at town center and all that from two different directions with reuse. So we can, just gives us more tools in the toolbox than we currently have.
It'd be a great fit, but it needs a lot of engineering research.
And one of the questions I asked Johnny at some point during this process was, how do we justify to our ratepayers why we're getting involved in this? And the two answers that helped me better understand it were, one, obviously we have this reuse opportunity that we're constantly seeking, but secondly, it's a potential threat to our water source. So
to explain that,
those two together, and that's why the water and sewer district needs to be involved.
As we increase our pumping capacity, we're at a higher risk of drawing in more groundwater. So instead of trying to treat, you go after the soil, change the source. So we can influence that with our Class A1 reuse, provincially, even lock us into aquifer recharge and all that. So it's again, we're going to be setting precedents in the state of Montana with all this. So
That's why I wondered how we're gonna get it done in 2 years.
well, I'm going to get the sewer connected in 2 years.
It changed, like I said, I still said it's mostly in serious.
One thing that is
so realistic.
okay, shoot, it's for you. One thing you should know again about some of the background on it. The consultants have done some incredible modeling with this. That was a key component of the trial, was their modeling and the monitoring of the wells, Birdhouse well, the Two Moons well, and that. These models are going to be very helpful with not just permitting. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on the DEQ. It's not going to be guesswork of saying to the current operators, this may be happening. No, it's happening. I mean, we won the trial based on it. It's happening. This is a problem. And we have to preserve our water. We have to. We're not threatening, but we've got to take action now with the DEQ to preserve our water. And it just creates urgency. And I think the fact that so much of that modeling has been done over the last 2 years helps accelerate to that point where they'll understand the urgency associated with it as well.
Does anybody in state do groundwater discharge right now?
Yeah.
So that's not
no, that's our closest one.
Right.
We do groundwater district.
Okay. Anything else today?
That is
Lady?
that is it.
How about that for getting that done?
Okay.
What's that?
When you works for
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. So moved.